in Korea, North Korea. I saw this article on the Wall Street Journal. It says the world's most surprising economic success story is North Korea. Arms sales to Russia and goods from China provide boost. Despite sanctions, the regime is wealthier than ever. Now, I can't read through the article because it's behind a paywall, but I will summarize the findings and also other research that I've done. But the reality is North Korea is not the North Korea of the past. They are not just some third world communist hellhole where none of the people can live a normal, productive life. That's not North Korea anymore. North Korea actually is booming and it's growing. It's booming and it's growing. So, the Wall Street Journal calls North Korea the world's most surprising economic success story. 3.7% growth, the fastest in 8 years. There's a construction boom in Pyongyang. There's apps, taxis, electric vehicles, pizza. And so there's rapid development. You see here. And actually, this is actually a good point. I do want to point this out. Notice how all of that is in what? Korean. All of that is in Korean. You go to South Korea today, all of the new hotels, the apartment complexes, new businesses, new restaurants, new department stores. If you look at all of them, the exterior and the branding, you know what it's all in? You know what language it's all in? It's in English. And as someone who grew up in America, I'm like, oh, like that's cool. That's recognizable. But why should all of the stores in Korea be in English? It's Korea. Can you imagine in America, you're going around and all of your local Targets are in Korean? That's preposterous. It's preposterous. Yeah, we're supposed to accept this as normal in South Korea. And this is something, I might get heat for this, but this has to be said. This is something that South Koreans can actually learn from North Korea. That everything that they do is in Korean. It's in Hangul. This is not me condoning North Korea. I very much do not like the North Korean regime. But one thing that they do is that they don't allow their country to be completely taken over by the English language. Like even in the regular Korean lexicon, they use borrowed English words to express things and phenomena in Korean, whereas they have Korean words for it, or they can use Korean to invent words to describe new technologies, new phenomena. But so much of it, they use English. So the stores are in English, the menus are in English, a lot of the texts are in English in Korean society. Like that's bad because you lose your country. You lose your sense of national identity if that keeps happening, by the way. That's actually not healthy. So in the same way, America, you shouldn't go around and have all your Walmarts and your Office Depots and your Targets and your Krogers be in Chinese or something, or in Arabic. Yeah, you shouldn't want all of your new restaurants and businesses and department stores, churches, apartment complexes, hotels. You shouldn't want that all to be in English in Korea. But yes, but this is primarily driven, the advancement of and the boom of the North Korean economy is primarily driven by arms sales to Russia, troop deployment to Russia for the Ukraine war, where I think like one third of North Korean troops died, which is kind of sad. And then also increased trade with China and sanction evasion, because you know the UN, the US, they all have economic sanctions on North Korea, but they're evading it. But that's how they're booming. That's how they're booming. So growing 3.7%, which is the largest boom we've seen in recent North Korean history. But this actually allows Kim Jong-un to say, yeah, actually, look at this. North Korea, we don't have to give up our nuclear program, our nuclear arsenal, in order to grow economically. That's concerning. That's concerning. So we have to take this seriously, understand that North Korea is developing at their own rate. So experts say that North Korea is economically stronger now than any point in Kim Jong-il's reign and his rule. North Korea is the strongest. It is growing economically so much quicker than any point in North Korean history. And so we have to understand that North Korea is not just like they're all poor. Now, don't get me wrong, they still have millions of people who are malnourished in North Korea. And most of North Korea is still underdeveloped. But they are rapidly industrializing. It'll take them 20, 30 years probably to catch up to where South Korea is right now. But they are catching up. Look at these satellite images. This is a satellite image of Pyongyang just a couple of years ago. Look at how much growth in the past few years alone. Look how much growth Pyongyang has seen. This is satellite images. So these are buildings, lighting, infrastructure, industry. It's growing. It's growing quickly. It is growing quickly, and we have to be real about this. We can't constantly be like, oh yeah, North Korea, oh yeah, they're just stupid and they're just all poor and they're all underdeveloped. Like here's a video. Look at this picture. This literally looks like South Korea. Not completely, but this is what buildings in South Korea look like. Like, look at you see the Koreans walking. This is the Hwasong district in Pyongyang. Like, we can't just chalk up North Korea to be an underdeveloped hellhole anymore because they're developing rapidly thanks to their deal and their sales with Russia and also their rapid trade with China. You know, they say monthly trade with China reached an 8-year high, and Chinese consumer products continue flowing into North Korea despite sanctions. And so a lot of the consumer goods, but also the resources that North Korea needs to industrialize and make domestic products does come from China. A lot of their digital technologies depend on Chinese components. But the reality is, North Korea is increasing their own domestic production of technology, of products, consumer goods. Do we have a picture of the smartphones? I think I sent it in the chat. It should be one of the pictures. Do we have it? Yeah. So these are what North Korean smartphones look like. I'm going to pull it up real quick. All right, we're having a lot of technical difficulties today, chat. I have no idea why. I do apologize. Not everything runs as smoothly as we'd like, but it's all good. Things happen. So this is what North Korean phones look like. This is a North Korean smartphone brand right here. So this is what they look like. And of course, it still looks like phones from maybe 10, 15 years ago in America, but they're smartphones. So they're not just like those LG Sidekicks that we used to have. Oh no, it's not LG. I think it was Motorola Sidekicks. I forget. That was long ago. But you know, like the smartphones with the touchscreen, but you slide up and has the whole keypad and everything. Kind of looks like that, but they're touchscreen. So North Korea, they're increasing their domestic smartphone and digital products production. Like more than 50 smartphone brands in North Korea exists, and domestic production exceeds 500,000 phones annually. And smartphone ownership is now widespread. So everyone in Pyongyang has a smartphone. They use the internet. Of course, the internet is insular and it's only within North Korea. But they use the internet. They communicate through social media and messaging apps. Everyone in North Korea uses smartphones now, unless you're in the rural areas and you're poor. But if you're in industrialized areas, and namely in Pyongyang, yeah, like you're using smartphones. And then, so before COVID, North Koreans only paid with cash because that was the technology, that was the infrastructure. They mostly only paid with cash. Now they all pay with QR codes and their smartphones. Right? We use Apple Pay, we use Samsung Pay. Yeah, North Koreans are using that. They have their own version of that. They have delivery services. They have taxi services like Uber. Right? They have an app called Samhung. It's kind of like Samsung, but like a ripoff, Samhung. And it functions like Uber. You can call taxis. You can track the vehicles in real time. Literally, like an Uber, like Kakao Taxi in South Korea. North Korea has this technology. The housing boom, the construction boom, they built approximately 10,000 new apartments in Pyongyang in 1 year. 10,000. That's more than LA, by the way. They're developing more housing units and apartments than LA. Massive new high-rise districts have appeared. Like we just showed you, the Hwaseong district with those massive new high-rise apartments and those buildings. And that's like a very Korean way of creating new apartments, by the way. If you go to Korea, you see all the new apartments, they all have the stores and the restaurants, the hair salons, all on the first, second, third floors. And then they have apartment like units like all stacked on top of it. Now, it's convenient. It's so convenient. I will not deny that. But like we covered in our previous episode, it actually makes people more isolated to live in these units. Now, this was like a plus too. Apartments were awarded to families of soldiers killed in Russia. And so there's also more infrastructure projects. They completed Pyongyang's largest hospital. So they're also revolutionizing and growing the medical industry in Pyongyang and in North Korea. They have a massive greenhouse complex that they built in the heart of Pyongyang that's bigger than Central Park. And if you've ever been to Central Park, you know how massive Central Park is. They're creating beach resorts and just industrializing nationwide. And so they have a development initiative called 2010, and that's Kim Jong-un's flagship economic program, and it's to build factories in 20 cities every year for 10 years. So in each area receives light industry factories, healthcare facilities, leisure infrastructure, and it's to reduce dependence on Pyongyang and modernize provincial areas. Think about that. Kim Jong-un has a better economic policy to revitalize and reindustrialize urban, rural areas than the current South Korean government does. Shocking. Like, seriously, that's shocking. The fact that a communist dictator has a better economic initiative, whether or not it succeeds or not, but as we can see with the economic growth of North Korea, as they allow for trade and they reindustrialize, and they actually open up their markets a bit to allow for economic activity for people to own their own property and their own money. Not genuinely communist, by the way. Like, it's not actually communist in their economic policy. But yeah, this communist dictator has a better economic initiative to industrialize and modernize rural areas of North Korea than the South Korean government does for rural areas of South Korea. Like, think how preposterous that is. That just shows you how incompetent and short-sighted the Korean government is in Korea right now, South Korea. But think about that. Like, this is something that the South Korean government can do, by the way. Have an economic initiative to reindustrialize rural areas. This is actually something that President Yoon was doing to revitalize Samsung factories and Chaebol factories in poorer and lesser-known areas in Korea to allow for workers to get higher wages and reindustrialize or industrialize and modernize certain areas of Korea that is overlooked outside of Seoul. That's what he's actually doing. The DPK doesn't even care about that. They have all these slogans about, oh yeah, we care for everyone to have a living wage and be able to afford a family. It's like, you're not doing anything about it. Also, this is interesting. I mentioned this, by the way, that they have pizza in North Korea now. Right? So North Korea used to be a place where they can't even conceptualize bringing anything Western into their country. But now, right, their restaurants, they have pizza restaurants. They have sushi restaurants. They have cafes like South Korea does. And of course, we mentioned the mobile payment systems that they have. Retail. Department stores carry luxury style goods. They have Chanel. They have Ray-Bans. And by the way, the reason why they're able to do that is because America has offshored their manufacturing all to China. So that now China is able to take those goods that are supposedly only be for America and for Western brands, they can just give it to North Korea. This is something Americans need to understand. Hey, offshoring your manufacturing and having a foreign country, your number one foreign adversary, China, manufacture all of your products, not a good idea. Not a good idea. Because then it allows for the economic development of places like North Korea. Oh, but that's the thing. Most Americans don't care. Most people don't care. Because why? All they care about is lower consumer prices. Oh yeah, made in China? Oh, I don't care as long as it's quality, as long as it's luxury brand. They also have pet stores. They have pet stores in North Korea. They're not just eating the dogs anymore. Like there's literally stories of tourists who go to North Korea and they see North Koreans with like what are they called? Like Maltese poodles or whatever. I don't even know dog breeds. But yeah, they're not eating the dogs no more. They have pet stores. They have gaming cafes. They have PC bang. They have pharmacies and expanded state retail networks. They also have more cars, increase in vehicle ownership. A lot of North Koreans now own vehicles. They own EVs, right? Chinese EVs, but also domestic EVs are growing. Electric vehicles, something that you think is only for like first world countries like Japan, Korea, America. No, North Korea has electric vehicles. That's crazy. Think about that. They have electric vehicles. They have charging stations. They have taxi fleets, digital navigation, GPS, all that stuff. It's not just propaganda. It really isn't just propaganda. And I am not a North Korean apologist. Some people might hear this and be like, oh, this guy's a North Korean apologist. No, I'm telling you the reality and the facts on the ground. Researchers cite, right? We showed you the satellite imagery, so it's not just propaganda. Greater nighttime brightness from satellite imagery, expanded oil storage facilities, increased vessel activity, more crowded parking lots, busier streets, more construction visible across the country, and growth observed independently by foreign visitors, analysts, South Korean think tanks, even spy networks in South Korea are reporting this, that North Korea is booming economically. Now they're growing. Now again, like I said, nearly half the population is still malnourished. And obviously most of the economic development is in Pyongyang and among the elites in North Korea. And rural areas are still very underdeveloped. And the GDP is still tiny compared to developed areas. But because of Russian war spending, because of trade with China, and because they're loosening a lot of the economic restrictions that they used to have on their people, because they realize that's not sustainable, yeah, they're growing. North Korea is growing. And so right now, while most of the country still remains poor, North Korea's economic growth is the strongest we've ever seen in history. So how do we think about this? How do we think about this? Well, first of all, one thing we need to think about is North Korea's relationship with Russia. So North Korea's relationship with Russia is that they signed 2 years ago a mutual defense pact, which says that if any country invades their country or attacks their country, if they are on the defense, then the other country is contractually obligated to send defense forces, to send troops to help in the defense efforts. But Russia outlined in the pact that if North Korea is invaded, if North Korea isn't the aggressor, no, is the aggressor, sorry. If North Korea is the invader and North Korea is the aggressor, Russia will not get involved. So Russia is one of the biggest sources of North Korea's economic boom. And on top of that, they have the military trust of Russia. But Russia says explicitly that they will not send troops, they will not dedicate troops to North Korea if they are to invade or be the aggressors in any military conflict. Which tells us what? The reality is North Korea will not invade or attack South Korea anytime soon. They'd be stupid to. Why would they fight a war against South Korea and America without the troops of Russia in Russia? Which tells us, by the way, the fact that Kim Jong-un signed off on this, it tells us that North Korea is not interested in invading or attacking South Korea anytime soon, which is also why recently in their constitution, they took out hopes of reunification with South Korea in the future. Because why? North Korea is creating their own sense of national identity, and they're focused on industrializing and growing their economy and becoming strong for their own people. Now, for whatever nefarious purposes that may be, we'll never know. But I think Kim Jong-un realized that it's not sustainable to just have your entire population completely malnourished. So he is focused now on domestic revitalization, domestic production, and growth. That's the reality. So then how do South Koreans think about it? Well, South Korean right-wingers are correct in that we're still in a war. But we have to think about this further. Okay, what is the solution then? What are we working towards with North Korea? Now, the left in South Korea is too weak with their sunshine policy. Like, oh yeah, North Korea. And then the right is like, oh yeah, frick, North Korea, just completely out of the picture. We're still at war with them, destroy them. But I believe that North Korean policy in South Korea has to be a balance of both. Where you're not intentionally, completely antagonizing them and wanting to destroy them. And at the same time, you're trying to actually move towards a genuine peace treaty. Because we're still technically at war. We only signed an armistice. We didn't sign a peace treaty. So in order to move towards genuine peace and have hopes of reunification, what South Korea needs to do and their public policy and their foreign policy has to be national sovereignty, strength, untethered from China, untethered from America, but strength from the ground up South Korea standing on its two legs only. Now, we can have a strong alliance with America, for sure. I'm not against that. Because it was America that helped us during the war. I'm not against that. There is deep ties there. And on top of that, I live in America. I'm an American citizen. I love America. So then, yes, like that U.S.-Korea alliance is a good thing. But right now, so many right-wingers, as maybe we'll discuss later in this episode, are so dependent on America. They see America as their only savior. There's this huge campaign from right-wingers online saying, call the White House, call the White House, call the White House. We must let the White House know what's going on. Like, how are you going to save your country if you keep depending on America for everything and anything? For every political crisis, for all the political turmoil, anything goes wrong in your country, you keep relying on America and asking America to bail you out. They won't bail you out. America is moving towards a place right now, both left and right, by the way, where they care about America first. Now, the left sees America first as importing infinity immigrants, but the left actually, large in part, they're anti-Zionist. They don't believe in giving foreign aid to Israel, foreign aid to different countries. They want a lot of the federal budget and the government spending to be for Americans, like people in America, and who they consider to be Americans is different than what the right wing believes. I get that. But both left and right are moving towards a place in America where they are against foreign spending and foreign lobbying. Like they are against all of that. So the future of America is truly America first. Korea, they're not gonna intervene, especially because South Korea is, by and large, a first world country and a democracy. So America will not they won't come in like they did with Venezuela and swap up Maduro and swap up Lee Jae-myung like he did with Maduro. They're not gonna do that. So constantly relying on America to bail you out, they won't. What you have to do is take Korea by your own two hands, Korean patriots. And you need to say, we want national sovereignty. We want to stand our own two legs. We can do so. We have the capability of doing so. We have the soft power to do so. We have the economic power to do so. We have the cultural influence to do so. There's no reason why South Korea cannot stand on its two legs proudly with their chest out saying, hey, we are a sovereign country anymore. And then by doing so, North Korea can take you seriously instead of seeing you as a vassal state of America. And also maybe of China. Because the left and the DPK is too soft on China. They believe in importing a lot of Chinese technology and companies and products into Korea. But the reality is South Korea, its own domestic production, it is a marvel. It is truly a miracle if you think about it. The shipbuilding industry, the semiconductors industry. So many products are made domestically on South Korean soil. That is awesome. That is awesome. So all that being said, that has to be the policy and that has to be the goal moving forward. Like a peace treaty with North Korea. But North Korea will not take South Korea seriously as long as South Korea is constantly, especially the right wing, is constantly saying, oh yeah, America save us. America save us. America bail us out. We need America. No, you don't need America. You can be friends and allies with America, but you don't need to be underneath America as Koreans. You can be on equal footing as with Americans in an alliance. That's what the alliance is, right? It's two equal powers who benefit from helping each other. But the right-wingers see themselves below America, which I don't think you should, because Korea is, like I said, the only country other than America in the world that has companies valued at over $1 trillion. Korea is strong. And I love America. Don't get me wrong. I love America. America's great. I believe in a U.S.-Korea alliance, but I believe in an alliance, not Korea being a vassal state. And most Americans know this, by the way. They all view Korea as a vassal state of America. And that's not how you project strength. Korea has to be strong. So yeah, also you saw Xi Jinping visited North Korea this past week. Here's just some footage. You can just play it without video. But here's Kim Jong-un and Xi Jinping getting along with all the typical festivities. Two chunky boys getting along. North Koreans waving a North Korean flag and also a Chinese flag. You have demonstrations. So yeah, I mean, this is pretty standard. We all know that North Korea and China have very close ties. But like I said, like we need to think about moving forward on the Korean Peninsula to achieve actual sovereignty from other foreign powers. And actually, you know, right-wingers always see America as the best mediator for peace on the Korean Peninsula, but I do think that Russia can actually be a mediator. People might say, oh, you're a Russian spy. Like, I'm just so tired of that. Can we move on from that? Can we be serious? Let's be serious. We're in the 21st century. It is 2026. We're not the Cold War anymore. The dynamics are different. The incentives for countries are different. Like, Korea needs to consider Russia as a potential way to mediate relations between the two Koreas. I believe this. Like, there are so many things, like fuel and gas, for example. Right now, Korea gets all of their oil from the Strait of Hormuz. But imagine if you're able to get a lot from Russia. Like, that would drive down costs. That would help industrialization and the economy. But because Russia has signed that mutual defense pact with North Korea, it shows us that Russia has no interest in attacking South Korea. They're not belligerent against South Korea. So then exploring having Russia be a mediator between the two Koreas, because the two Koreas, by and large, have a lot to benefit from Russia, like we outlined with North Korea, arms deal, sending troops, all that stuff. That's a way, probably, where we can move forward. And of course, we have America in the picture. Having a peace treaty and a peace deal without America would be stupid. But I think Trump actually has the opportunity to do this. Trump is the only American president ever to walk on North Korean soil and enter North Korea. Like, what a Chad. You guys remember during the first administration, he just walked over the line with no guards, no soldiers, no bodyguards, walked over the border, shook Kim Jong-un's hand. What a freaking boss, dude. That's strength. That is strength, man. Trump is strength. Not Lee Jae-myung. What a freaking loser. Like this guy right here. Look, he just walks over. No security guards. No bodyguards. He's like, I'm going to just do it. And he goes, he shakes Kim Jong-un's hands. He has a conversation. That's strength, man. Donald Trump is strength. That's why it's like a lot of his administration, like I've been critical of, but also I understand that he has changed a lot of things for the better in American society. But Trump is strength, man. Trump shows strength. So that's my thoughts on North Korea. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. But North Korea is revitalizing and growing economically. And South Korea, and also America too, needs to take a strategic and practical approach towards reunification of the two Koreas, but at the very least, a peace treaty. But the thing is, South Korea needs to stand on its own two legs. And we need to move forward because the reality is, I'm half North Korean, by the way. My great-grandfather and my grandfather fled North Korea during the Korean War when the UN forces and the Allied forces took over most of the Korean peninsula. So I am technically half North Korean. Not North Korean like, oh, I'm half communist, things like that. But genetically and ancestrally, I'm half North Korean. They're still Koreans. And so we should want, even though we're divided by ideology and history, we should still move towards a future where we are unified as one Korea. We're not communist, but we're also not egalitarian, but we're an ordered, just, thriving, flourishing society. And I believe that can come. I believe that's what's on God's heart as well. God started the revival, a Christian revival, and the Christianization of Korea in Pyongyang in the early 1900s. That's where Christianity blew up on the Korean peninsula. That is the inheritance of the North Koreans. It's Christianity. It is the one true faith. So that's what we desire. We desire that. So let's move forward. Let's be a little smarter about what we advocate for. And please, for the love of God, South Koreans, the South Korean government, can you actually do something and be competent? People are sick of you.